This is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. In this episode, I'll be demonstrating the all-new Tribest Backspin vacuum blender that was just released this month, May 2025. And until the end of this month, you guys can still save about $100 off on the Backspin by using the coupon code DJ at Tribest.com. Link is right down below this video. After that, the coupon code will only be good for 10% off. So I want to try to get a few more videos in to show you guys the capabilities about this literally game-changing, revolutionary blender. This blender changes the game. In the 100 years that blenders were created, because they were created about 100 years ago, they haven't changed much. They just had a high-speed like blade with a container, and you had to make sure you had enough liquid in there to get things to blend up. And around 2012, the Japanese invented vacuum blending, where basically you still had that same container with the blade spinning around, but now they suck the oxygen out of the container so you can keep like 2.5 times more of those valuable phytonutrients such as polyphenols that can have amazing health benefits when blending. And also, of course, you're not going to be putting a lot of dissolved oxygen in your smoothie to give you like literally a foamy taste on your smoothies that, you know, everybody expects, but you could have a much better mouthfeel, more solid, without swallowing all that extra air that can cause gas and bloating. So I've been promoting vacuum blenders. I'm like the only guy promoting vacuum blenders, for that matter, with the most videos on vacuum blending, because I am truly a believer it does make a huge difference. That being said, now Tribest comes out with this, which is not only a vacuum blender, but it's called a backspin blender. And I'm going to explain that real quick, because this is really the major difference between this blender and other blenders out there. Not only does it have the vacuum to reduce the oxidative damage, to not mix all the oxygen in, but also it now allows you to blend even the thickest mixtures without a tamper. Common blenders such as the Vitamix, you know, if you don't have enough liquid in there, they give you a tamper, so you got to push things into the blender blade to get it to go in, and hopefully it'll quote unquote catch and just start blending when your frozen ingredients turn into a liquid, and then it adds some extra, liquid in there. That being said, I have friends, actually, I visited yesterday, that said, you know, John, the biggest problem I have is that when I'm blending something using the tamper, it just doesn't catch. There's a problem with the blender. And I'm like, well, really, the problem is with that you need to add more liquid based on the appliance you're using, or you should be using this appliance, because this appliance allows you to blend even the thickest mixtures. Let's explain how it works. So we're gonna go ahead and take it apart. This is where the magic happens, guys. This is in the Blender Craft. This is unlike any other Blender Craft on the market. First, you have an outer lid that has a vacuum seal on it. Next, you have the inner lid, right? So yes, there are a few more parts to clean on this blender. Next, you have the blade that has multiple, blades on it. It has like 6 blades. And then now the main thing about this is that you have an outer chamber and an inner chamber. Until now, all blenders had just one chamber with the blade inside there, right? The blade would spin around and needs to hit the food, and the food's only going to hit the blade if you have water in there to basically make sure everything goes into the blade. If you have something like trying to make nut butter in a regular blender and just put cashews and macadamia nuts, they get blended, but then they stick to the sides. They don't fall back into the blender. Not so with the Backspin. I want you guys to check my original unboxing video that I literally use half macadamia nuts, half cashews, and turn it into the creamiest nut butter with no added liquid, without doing any work other than putting all the ingredients in there, pressing one button, and literally walking away. Of course, another recipe I did was frozen fruit sorbet, made with 100% frozen fruit, no liquid added, guys. And it turned it into the thickest frozen fruit nice scream that you've never even seen, right? Also, of course, done without vacuum, so you're not inflating the oxygen and giving it like, a texture that will melt more quickly, and also, more importantly, cause enzymes to become more active, such as the polyphenol oxidase that can turn bananas brown and lower nutrition consequently. Nonetheless, how this works is it has an inner chamber. So what happens is, as I put this inner chamber in there, right, and then you have the blade. So basically what happens is the blade turns one way and the chamber turns the other way, pretty much at the same time. What this does is that this basically works like scraping down the sides. This basically causes the ingredients to be basically pushed into the blades to get processed, even if you don't have that much liquid in there, because traditional blenders rely on the liquid to get things blended up, whereas a backspin relies on literally the backspin outer chamber spinning one way and the blade spinning the other way, so you have more food impact. It's like if you're going, you know, don't ever do this, but if you're going like the right way on the freeway and then somebody's coming at you, you're gonna have an impact, right? That's like, this is going the wrong way on the freeway, this is going the right way, and bam, you get food impact. So yeah, don't drive the wrong way on the freeway, but yeah, have a backspin so you could get impact of your food to get it ground up more effectively, you know? So yeah, that's really the big game changer technology about the backspin blender. And you know, once again, unboxing video to learn even more about it. It's 900 watts of power, and more importantly, you know, TriBest, a company that I've worked with for now over 30 years, has a good warranty, solid warranty, a 10-year warranty actually, which is longer than even some Vitamix and even Blendtec, which are the high-end blender models. So, you know, you could have confidence in this product. Of course, this blender is also BPA free as well. That being said, the reason for this video is because in my original video, people said, John, can that just make regular smoothies? Because I showed it without using water, which is more difficult to use when you got water. And when you have water, it's even going to work better because not only are you relying on the ingredients to be in the water to get blade contact, you also have the backspin element, or that inner chamber, once again, rotating in the opposite direction. You know, if you guys are into kitchen gadgets and want a machine that could do things that your other machines can't, this is it. That's why I love this machine. For, you know, for specific instances, this machine is so amazing because it could literally do things other machines can't. You know, of course, you could use a traditional vacuum blender to vacuum blend up smoothies like I'm doing today as well. So let's see how the backspin blender does it. So today I'm making a traditional green smoothie, and we have 1.5 cups of coconut water going right in. Next up, we have the organic greens. I'm going to put one whole package. This package is 9 ounces, has organic kale, organic collards, organic Mizuno, organic spinach, organic mustard, and organic chard. This is by Blue Sky Organics, grown in Arizona, organic, over 25 years. I know they have like those bins of just greens from different companies, Earthbound and otherwise, but like I'm gonna have to tell you guys, like this is available in my store, and the quality of these greens surpass all those other, you know, Earthbound and other greens in those little plastic, you know, bins, right? So I'd encourage you guys, if you guys can buy these greens, get them, because I find these don't go bad as quickly and have a much more, you know, I would say closer to homegrown, because I do grow a lot of my own greens myself. Nonetheless, you know, I'm not going to make it easy for the backspin. We're putting this whole container, you know, package, or 9 ounces. So that's like over 1/2 pound of greens in there. So hopefully this will fit, because, you know, the benefits of a green smoothie are the greens, not necessarily the fruit. And I want to see if I loaded this up to the hilt, if it's going to blend. So let's even see if we could fit 9 ounces of the loose greens into the backspin. Alright guys, so it looks like I was able to fit all the greens, all 9 ounces of the greens into the backspin. I do want to let you guys know that, of course, the backspin blender has a carafe that's a bit smaller than traditional carafes on blenders. It goes up to 1,800 milliliters. And so I have packed this in there, which generally you don't want to do because you want to have it loose so it could actually drop in, but we're going to see what happens. Of course, next up we have some frozen fruit. I have a mixture of frozen bananas that I froze myself, and some organic wild blueberries from Trader Joe's that actually has some frost burn. So a little bit of ice crystals on there. So let's dump those in as well. So I don't really know how this is going to do, because if you did this in a regular blender, packing it in like that, the blender blades will spin and the greens are just going to sit there, right? And of course, to top it off, I always encourage you guys to get diversity in your diet. So I have an amazing trio, barley grass, wheatgrass, and alfalfa. You know, and we're just going to go ahead and dump some powder in there. All right, next up, we need to put the inner lid on and make sure that just kind of seats down perfectly, which it does. So I'm glad everything fit. I would say we basically kind of maxed out the container. You wouldn't really want to put any more than this. And of course, in the instruction book, they do share what the maximum fill capacity is depending on your specific recipe. Finally, we put the vacuum seal lid up on the top. Next up, we're going to go ahead and close the top. It beeps at you to let you know it's good, and then we're going to press the vacuum button once. Very important, guys, when you blend in the backspin, if you want a vacuum function, you always need to press the vacuum button and then press the other button. On the top, they have a few buttons, and it's basically pre-programmed cycles. You have an auto low, which runs for about, I think it's like 50 seconds. You have the auto button, which I believe runs for about 2 minutes, and then you have the auto high, which runs for about 4 minutes. So like if you're doing the nut butter, it'd be the auto high. You also then have a manual pulse button that you could just press and hold down if you just want to blend it manually. And then you have this little dial here that you could dial up or down the speed. Control, all right? So I guess with this recipe, we're just gonna try to do a 50-second blend. So we're just gonna go ahead and press the auto button. All right, so first up, I press vacuum once, and then I'm gonna just press the auto low button for a 50-second blend so we can see what the heck happens. All right, first up, you guys could hear the vacuum pump coming on, sucking out all the excess oxygen out of the carafe. Actually, I see some air bubbles coming up between the coconut water and some of the greens. And after the vacuum is pulled, it'll start blending. So I'm going to go ahead and do a close-up for you guys on the blend itself. Alright guys, so that was a 50-second blend time. I don't know if everything blended up good in 50 seconds or not, but literally I was impressed. Were you guys impressed when you saw how it blended? Like literally I packed it in there, and because we have the blade spinning one direction, the outside spinning the other direction, it basically got everything to fold into the blade. Of course, you could run it for longer or do a manual setting if you just wanted to sit there and hold the button down and run it until you thought it was done. And of course, at the end of the blending cycle, it lets out the vacuum. So let's go ahead and pull this out and see what we got here. All right, so we could pull off the outer lid, could pull off the inner lid, and whoa, check it out. Looks like we got a smoothie here. Now, I will tell you guys the downside of the backspin is that there's no pour spout. You know, most blenders have a pour spout, so if your main goal is to make smoothies, while this will work, you know, it can get a little bit messy pouring out of it. So let's go ahead and see how easy it is to pour out of it. All right, I'm seeing a nice smoothie. This is very thick, guys. Very thick. I'm not seeing any major chunks. We filled it up to the top. We still have a lot of smoothie material. Now, this is what will happen because you have an inner and an outer chamber. Some of the smoothie, if you don't pour it all in one shot, it'll actually dribble back down. But you guys can see, actually, it's a very nice consistency. So, I guess next up, I want to go ahead and try the smoothie and let you guys know what it tastes like. Wow. This is insane, guys. So, here's the thing. I mean, if you have a Vitamix or a other vacuum blender, you run it for longer, and you have a little more liquid in there, it's going to get the pieces chopped up more finely, you know. I will say that the pieces, running it at 50 seconds, and of course you could run it for longer. You could run it for, 2 minutes on the auto cycle as well if you want to run it longer. It would get a bit more liquid because I want to kind of keep that ice-like consistency, right? So to me, this is like, I used to love like the Shamrock Shake when I was a kid at McDonald's. I should have threw some mint in there for my garden because I'd have like the Shamrock Shake like smoothie, right? This texture is as thick as a milkshake. This is something that would be very difficult in a traditional blender, especially packing them in like that. You would definitely have to use the tamper. It'd get loud and it would not be under vacuum as well. I'm going to say, I don't feel any big chunks of the fruit. I will say that all the greens are blended up appropriately for me. I'm happy with it. That being said, if you guys are one of those sticklers and I want the finest particle size, then you could try running this longer. That may get it finer particle size. But also, due to the shape of the carafe, which is, most blenders come down to a fine and narrow bottom, which then you get a lot more blade action, plus also because you have more liquid, you get a lot more blade action on the produce, right? So yeah, if the fineness is your main criteria, then you actually don't want to get the Backspin. You want to get a traditional vacuum blender where it could run longer and you can have more liquid. That being said, for those of you guys that want the thickest smoothies and things broken down to a really nice texture, right, and have it thick and not all watery, because when you blend a traditional blender, it has to literally over blend it, and then when you over blend frozen fruits, it gets like liquidy and no longer like that milkshake like perfect consistency. That is really where the Backspin shines, is that you can get that thick, perfect milkshake like consistency blending in this machine that you're not going to get on other machines, because when you use other machines, especially with a tamper, you're going to tend to over blend and make things more liquid. But then of course your greens will be much more finely chopped up. So what do you want more, texture or finely ground up greens in the smallest particle size? For me, I'm going to take this one because the texture is just so pleasant, so nice. It's not like all watery. It's just nice and thick. And of course, you could make these as thick or as thin as you want by adding more or less liquid. I would say this is a perfect recipe to make in the Backspin, and I'm actually quite happy with it. Alright guys, so you guys just saw how this made an amazingly thick green smoothie, did an amazing job. Next up, I know a lot of you guys love green smoothies, and I would encourage you guys actually to drink more green smoothies. The goal of the green smoothies is to get more greens in you, whether you want to juice them or vacuum blend them. Greens are definitely one of the most important foods and unfortunately are most under-eaten. You might not want to put the most greens like I did. You might want to put half that amount if you don't like things that taste too strong. You know, that being said, for people that don't like things tasting too strong, the next best thing is actually a fruit smoothie. So now what I'll be doing for you guys is actually making even a thicker fruit smoothie using even less water to see how the Backspin will handle a very thick smoothie. To remind you guys, you know, if you put too much frozen fruits and not enough liquid in a traditional blender, you're sitting there with a tamper trying to push it in, trying to get it to catch so it starts to blend, and then it stops, and you gotta tamper some more and lower and speed it up the blender, and it's a big pain, right? No more do you need to screw with a freaking tamper to get your thick smoothies to blend. You can now use the Backspin. So let's go ahead and do this next smoothie recipe. Once again, we need to remove the outer top, the inner top. Next up, we're gonna go ahead and put our ingredients in. In this case, we have like 1 cup of coconut water, so that is not a lot of liquid for our smoothie. If we don't put any liquid in, we're gonna end up making a sorbet. I did want to make some kind of smoothie, but I didn't want it, you know, too watered down. Next up, we have literally, guys, we have a whole pound, a little bit over a pound actually, frozen fruit. We have basically mostly Adolfo mangoes. We have some organic cherries, and then of course I have some more of those wild blueberries that had some of that frost cold damage, so it has a bit of ice crystals. That's all right. We're just once again gonna pour all this into the Backspin. All right, next up, what I like to add is some powders to kind of make it like Orange Julius, if you used to have that as a kid like I did. This white powder is called inulin powder. This is a prebiotic fiber powder. It also adds a little bit of sweetness to your smoothie and gives it like a little bit of depth and like just tastes good. So I'm just gonna go ahead and dump some of that in there. If you guys are new to inulin powder, this may give you gas because your beneficial bacteria are eating the inulin powder, because we can, although it does taste sweet to us, doesn't really add like any sugar to it. So I like that a lot. And in addition, the other thing I like to add to make it, add some white powder, I like to add some probiotics. So these are actually the spore-based probiotics that are shelf-stable. Probiotics like this are often added to things like kombucha so that they could say they have, you know, probiotics even when they're pasteurized. That being said, I like to add this in just like, you know, another white powder that I could add in to just, you know, whatever up my smoothie game. As much as fruit is good, you know, we're adding some probiotics and some prebiotic fibers to make it even better. Right, next up, we're just going to go ahead and put that inner lid in and put that outer lid on. I think we'll try to also process this for 50 seconds to see what the heck happens. Close that lid. Once again, we need to press the vacuum button before we use the blender every single time. Then we're just going to go ahead and press the auto low button, which will run it for 50 seconds. But first, of course, it'll pull a vacuum. So let's go ahead and give you guys a close-up on the blend itself. Alright guys, so after a 50-second blend that you guys saw the process, it looks like it's pretty smooth. The challenge I see is that if I added more water, maybe it would have blended a little bit better. That being said, maybe the cycle time was not long enough because I did use so much frozen fruits. I do see some bits of the frozen mango that did not get completely blended. Alright, so we're just going to go ahead after doing a vacuum cycle to get it under vacuum. We're going to go ahead and just do the auto pulse mode to get this blended up. And I'm just going to hold it down a little bit longer. Alright, I think we got a nice smoothie there. So let's go ahead and once again open this up. And let's go ahead and see what we got. So once again, taking out the outer lid is basically super clean. The challenge is the inner lid, of course. We got a bunch of smoothie on there. Let's get our cup out and let's see if we could actually pour this smoothie or how thick it is. Guys, this is the thickest smoothie that you'll never be able to create in a traditional blender because you need to have enough liquid, and you know, if you're using the tamper, it's gonna basically kind of get it more liquidy. I mean, look at this. I could like tip this upside down. It's barely even moving out. So, you know, this smoothie is so thick, you really can't pour it out. You're gonna need to use a spatula. And of course, if you don't want it this thick, just add more water. It's actually gonna help the blender to work better. But this is the thickest smoothie. This is like a Cirrus, guys. This is like the milkshake. Look at that. I mean, this is not ice cream, but this is like the thickest smoothie you're ever gonna get. Now the other thing is that, you know, the Backspin should include a spatula. They do not. So you will need to pick one up to spoon out your super thick smoothies. But you know, if you guys look at this, I'm not seeing any bits of the mango or anything in this smoothie. Everything is nice and broken down. I mean, imagine drinking this on a hot summer day instead of this watered down smoothie that you needed to make in your Vitamix with the tamper that's just not this thick. I mean, this smoothie's so thick, I mean, you probably could drink it, but you probably need to actually eat it with a spoon. It is truly that thick. I mean, really, that is the beauty of the Backspin. It allows you to do things you couldn't otherwise do, right? Because this smoothie is so thick and it has not melted yet, like literally, right? Over time it'll melt and even maybe create a nicer texture. It's not gonna melt as quickly as something that you made in a Vitamix. I mean, I experienced this just the other day when I was filming with Marcus and Kara, so stay tuned for a video where I expose Marcus and Kara to the Backspin blender and how amazed Kara was at how it made some of her recipes that she makes on a regular basis. Alright guys, so next up, I can't wait. I'm gonna taste this super thick smoothie. Look at that. This thing is super thick. It barely even moves when you tip it. Look at that. Whoa! Alright, let's go ahead and try this. Wow. That is absolutely insane, guys. I wish you were here to try this. I taste like mangoes and the cherries. I don't taste the blueberries really. But this is just nice, thick, and cold. Like it's like a super thick milkshake. Like no other blender could get smoothies this thick. And I mean, I'll say that the fruit is completely broken down. Once again, you just need to make sure you run it long enough. That 50-second cycle time for this recipe was not long enough. I then vacuumed the chamber and then just held it down, pulse, manual button, a little bit longer, and it made the perfect consistency. So I will say that there may be a little bit of a learning curve if you want to use the automatic program buttons. You know, you're going to have to, you know, adjust your recipe accordingly to work with the buttons, or you could, of course, just use the manual buttons yourself and sit there and hold it and look to see when your recipe will be done. You know, I'll say I've never drank in a thicker smoothie than this, because literally before this, you couldn't make smoothies this thick because you had to use a tamper using a traditional blender that you have to have enough liquid. You have to add more liquid to sometimes get it to even blend up. Otherwise, you'd have, you know, chunks of, you know, frozen fruit unblended, right? So whether you guys want to make a frozen fruit smoothie, thickest ever, or even a green smoothie, once again, with the thickest texture ever. And of course, yes, if you guys added more water, it would even help the blender, the Backspin blender, work even better, right? Probably about the only downside of this I see, number one, is, you know, when you're pouring it, since there's an inner chamber, outer chamber, if you don't pour it all in one pour, it kind of drips down in between, which is a little bit of pain. Other pain, of course, is that, when you make super thick smoothies, it doesn't pour out. You have to use a spatula, which a spatula is not included, so you will have to purchase one on your own. Of course, you'll have a little bit more cleaning. You have the inner chamber. Some of the outer chamber doesn't get that dirty, but you will need to rinse that out as well. Of course, the capacity, a little bit less than a traditional blender. But what I will say is that the warranty is longer than most blenders and even other vacuum blenders on the market. So you are assured you'll be able to be making some super thick smoothies. And of course, I think the other downside for me is that, of course, if I ran it longer, I could probably get the particle size of the greens into a smaller particle size, running it longer. But then, you'd also lose some of the thickness. So you have to gauge out, do you want it more thick and maybe a little bit larger particle size? And actually, it has a really nice mouthfeel because it's like you're tasting, like when you eat ice cream, have you ever tasted like the ice crystals, like in the ice cream? That's actually part of the experience. It's not just like runny, smooth, right? Like if you like use a Vitamix, like that's what you're really getting. You're getting like ice crystals. You're actually getting a really nice texture. For those of you guys that are really texture sensitive and like new textures, you could just play with this machine so you blend it enough, but not too much, and you can get some amazing textures, right? So, what am I going to say now? Summing this Backspin blender up and the smoothies that I've created today, I'm going to say, it's absolutely the best blender out there if you guys want to make thick smoothies. No other blender can touch it for the thick smoothies. Of course, we did not do thin smoothies, and I'm sure that most of you guys out there are watching the video because you want to make thick smoothies and you've been disappointed at your regular blender, traditional blender, making thick smoothies because you'll get cavitation, it'll spin, and the ingredients won't drop in, right? That is really the solution that this blender provides. Make the thickest mixtures, and I've already made things like nut butter, frozen fruit sorbet, the thickest fruit smoothie, the thickest green smoothie I could think of to really push this machine to the limits so I could show you what it is capable of, and it is just simply amazing. It was literally just released this month if you guys are watching this video when it's airing originally. And I don't want you guys to miss out on the largest discount ever, 20% off until the end of this month only. So make sure you guys use that coupon code DJ at tribest.com. Link is down below. You can go to bit.ly/backspinblender. Get right there and buy the Backspin blender with 20% off, which will save you guys $100 right now. $99.99. And also, of course, you have the full 10-year warranty, longer than any other blender, and now you'll be able to create things you formerly were never able to create before with the most amazing textures. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you guys did, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. More importantly, share this with other people in smoothie forums that make fruit smoothies, that make green smoothies, that love their smoothies, but they always complain like, it doesn't really work, I gotta use a tamper, or I gotta add more water, and I don't want to do that. Let them know about this video so that they could see about this new revolutionary blender that unfortunately still most people are not even aware about. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss my new and upcoming episodes. I'll be coming out every 5 to 7 days. You never know what new appliance I'll be unboxing, sharing, or even doing more demos with the Backspin. I'm going to do the next demo doing vacuum juicing in the Backspin with celery and, of course, the Alexa's nut milk or juice bags. Make sure you click the little bell so you get notified as my new videos come out. And finally, be sure to check out past episodes. Past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 800 episodes at this time dedicated to share with you guys the best appliances to process your fruits and vegetables and other plant foods so you can retain the most nutrition, get the best texture, and have the best health. I'll put a link down below to the original unboxing video that I don't want you guys to miss about the Backspin, where I go more into some of its features as well as how it all works. So with that, my name is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for YouTube visitors.